Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Now for business updates across the globe, Rotus Udiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. And Doctor, I appreciate this book on economics that you got me. Doctor, very generous of you. Implications,
yes,
He matched everybody with his items on his plate. Thank you so much. Doctor is a literal man. He's a man of the books, a well-read person who educates people all the time. So all Dr. Bati, see all our books from the doctor. We keep learning from him.
Intentional,
very intentional. He thought about each individual.
He got me a book on preaching.
Oh, look at that. Pastor's wife.
As a pastor's wife.
Pastor's
wife.
Nice. Doctor, thank you so much. Okay,
thank you so
very quickly, we start off with China. China, of course, the new measures that they've come out with now. This is on their reserve ratios on foreign exchange that banks can hold. They basically reduced them just a bit. I think about 200 basis points from 6% to 4%, which is going to pretty much allow banks to free up reserves as far as FX is concerned, to strengthen the yuan. And also, hey, look, if your central bank is telling you can free up some of your reserves, you can probably deploy the FX somewhere else. So they're saying, analysts are saying you could free up to $16 billion worth of FX, and you can see that, about 800 billion or so as of July, in China's FX deposit. So again, but are these measures enough? That's the thing. Country Garden, they're supposed to vote on the bond payments reprieve. Remember, they have a bond coming up, and that I think they're owing. They have about $534 million in principal for a bond. So they were supposed to ask creditors for a reprieve for 40 days. The vote was supposed to happen yesterday, but they've now moved it to today. They said to give a little more time to review the situation. So again, this is part of the property sector challenges that China's property sector is facing, which is almost a quarter of China's economy. So issues of being over-leveraged, debt, and so on and so forth. Bjorn Grensen, he is a big CEO of ABB, which is a robotics company. Bjorn Rosengren, saying China is not really developing as we hoped in the beginning of the year. We are pretty pessimistic at the moment. China continues to be pretty soft. It's a big market though, so it's not dead. I think it'll be challenging for the rest of the year. This company is a massive multinational company. They are responsible for a lot of made in China items in terms of infrastructure, but robotics is where they're focusing on. So one of the positive things in China's market is electric vehicles. I think that's one of the sectors which has been good, which has some positive for the robotics market. So this is again talking about the future, robotics, EVs, and so on. I think they're about to spin off an e-mobility section of their business, which will be focused on charging infrastructure for EVs. And then he says here, it's crucial for Nigeria. He says energy generation is, of course, one of the sectors that needs to go green. You also need to build up electrification infrastructure globally. So electricity, message for us here. We move to the US now. Elon Musk says that video and audio calls are coming to X, formerly known as Twitter. He says it's going to work on iOS, Android, Mac, PC. No phone number is needed. X, he says, is the effective global address book. The set of factors is unique. Someone then asked him if the calls would be encrypted, and he said not at first, but they're going to add the ability to turn encryption on and off, because encryptions add a bit of a lag to the quality of the calls. But he wants to turn X into an everything app. Payments, phone calls. I think you can make phone calls on Instagram right now, video calls or something like that. Yes. So that's what even audio calls. That's where he wants to move X to going forward. As far as the United States is concerned, I think we're going to be expecting jobs figures later today, non-farm payrolls. I think the estimates are for about 171,000 jobs that will be created. As on the market, we saw 187 created in July. That was under a forecast of 200,000. Unemployment forecast should remain at 3.5. So a bit of cooling we're seeing with the U.S. economy. But again, this is a forecast. We'll get the numbers later on in the afternoon. I guess we'll discuss on Monday. I think we're moving to Africa now. I think you've already discussed the aviation minister putting a pause on Nigeria Air. I really am fascinated with is government still a continuum? If we're seeing the same, all these pauses from the last administration to this one. So Nigeria is suspended until further notice, contracts, concessions suspended until further notice. Then they talked about the Murtala International Airports shutting down for maintenance October 1st. The airlines are going to move to Terminal 2. Now, what happens to the planes that are already in the MMIA now? They literally, I think, have to fly out to land in the other one. And also, They won't, well,
So
it's,
it's going to get buses to take you there.
so the other, no, I'm talking about the planes that are currently in MMIA now. So if your plane is there
so
now,
they're going to be there. They're still going to land there. But it's going to get buses that will now, once you board, it will now drive you there to the plane
take you out.
to now take you out.
well, another interesting thing here, very quickly. Remember that Nigeria is a minority shareholder in Nigeria Air. You only have about 5%. So essentially, a minority shareholder is the one that is suspending a project for that majority shareholders are not having a say in. And then very interesting, what do you guys think about WhatsApp approvals for infrastructure projects? So Governor Baseki was complaining that in Edo State, the federal government has not allowed approvals for them to rehabilitate federal roads in Edo State. So the Minister of Works, Umahi, responded saying that, hey, listen, don't play politics with this. If you want to get approval, the government will give you an approval, and I can do it instantly via WhatsApp if you want. So I think instant messaging does anyone still use emails? I think instant messaging has just cleared up. It's taken over email.
So you should be able to have WhatsApp approval as long as you can authenticate it and document it and put it in the cloud.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, Edo State have led the way. They are going paperless now.
Yeah.
Over 6 million documents have been put in the archive. So screenshot it, put it there as an approval, as long as you have an evidence.
You can do it. Very quickly, Seplat has joined the 1 trillion naira market cap on the exchange. They joined MTN, Airtel, Dangote Cement, Boa Foods, Boa Cement, Zenith, GT. So they crossed that yesterday. The market almost at 30%. Now, I've been telling everybody, invest in Nigeria. If you bought, I think we have the data here. If you bought Seplat shares, I went back to the COVID period, around July 2020. Seplat shares were at 301 naira 63 kobo. If you bought 1,000 shares at that time, you would have spent 300,000 naira. Closing price as at yesterday was 1,873, meaning that your 300,000 naira worth of shares will now be worth 1.8 million, a 500% increase. Invest in Nigeria, diversify your portfolio. There's some good stocks there. You three big local investors, I'm talking to you three. Invest. That's our updates for today.
I mean, I'm done with it. I think.
Yeah, okay, good. Sure.
Let's talk. Okay.
Just
After
to very quickly on Nigeria Air with regards to beyond. So the Minister of Aviation is talking. He's starting off on a very high note, suspending some of the contracts that had been controversial in the last administration.
Yeah.
But how about? I know there'd also been an agenda for the repatriation of funds, especially to foreign airlines and airlines that have suspended operations in Nigeria, because those are conversations that we also need to in terms of setting an agenda. We haven't had an opportunity to talk about that in terms of cleaning that sector. Then beyond international travel is also managing the local, local industry.
Yeah.
I think actually we had talked about the fact that some of their agitations were things around the cost of doing business, multiple taxation. So addressing those things as well beyond international travel important, but even locally. Then finally, I'll just say on that one is the issue with the MMIA, the new international airports, and the challenges with the kind of planes that can land.
Tarmac and how wide it is, right?
How would he begin to solve that issue? Because that's in terms of the amount of money that was spent on that project, to find out that we can't even use it for bigger bigger planes,
right.
BA, Virgin, the likes cannot land an MMIA because of that.
Yeah. So a lot he has to do. That FX is CBN, so a lot there. Doctor?
Well, as dramatic and exciting as some of the statements made by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development may appear, let us just hope that this is not just a case of playing to the gallery.
Right.
He went on a tour of the facilities, and on the basis of what he saw, it will appear, on the spot, started making certain policy decisions.
Yeah.
I hope enough, study of the various dimensions of the issues involved may have been undertaken. What is to be noted is that he himself was part of the Buhari administration. Nigeria Air and all of that came on board 3 days, I think, to the end of the administration. So because of that, Nigerians were very concerned, saying, how do you do this? What are the real details? And stakeholders within the industry began to raise questions, particularly the airline operators of Nigeria.
Yes.
Okay? So what he has said, he says suspended, not cancellation.
Right.
Because, if you say you are cancelling, you will raise too many legal issues.
Yeah.
So maybe as the new Minister of Aviation, he wants to take a look at it. But nobody should start thinking, that particular arrangement has been cancelled. I don't think that's what he said.
Right.
Number two is about the concessioning. This was also something that was done, almost at the last minute.
Right.
The last Federal Executive Council meeting approved the concessioning of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, and also I think the Malam Aminu Kano
That's right.
Airport in Kano.
Yeah.
Those Makiad, it's called. Those were the two international airports that were concessioned. Okay, does he want to take a second look at the concessioning? But he himself will realize that he was a member of the same Federal Executive Council that gave that approval. Because I thought somebody raised the point on this table about continuity. So was he not part of it?
Right.
Now, as to the Murtala Mohammed Airport, the main terminal, appearing smelly, the carousel not working, the whole place not welcoming. Well, many people will agree with him in that regard, that you have to rehabilitate that part of the international airport. However, every Minister of Aviation comes in. They renovate these airports.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you know any Minister of Aviation that did not start by renovating? The issue is always maintenance.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes when that same MMIA is working, you go there, everybody will be excited. Oh, this place is looking nice. Everything is now working. The air conditioning is working. Give it 3-4 months.
Exactly.
So the problem is not the rehabilitation, it's about the maintenance. And I hope when they move, as he's suggesting, to this new terminal that has parking problems, space problems, that we will not have the same repeat. And that the plan to transport people from one part to the other will not amount to additional distress for travelers, both local and foreign. And also, he has said that there's a place at the international airport in Lagos here that is called the graveyard. I mean, that's serious. Because he was saying that we have quite a number of aircraft there that have been abandoned by their owners, who have now been given 3 months to remove their dead cargo. Otherwise, the Nigerian government will be forced to remove them. Now, nobody should turn our international airport to a graveyard because it's a major tourist, first place of contact with the country. Indeed. So in terms of the details, the Ministry of Aviation still has to work out the details rather than just making statements that grab the headlines. Now, you said Minister Umahi is promising federal government can give approval
by WhatsApp.
By WhatsApp. No, the issue here is not about WhatsApp. It's not about the grandstanding. The real issue about federal roads and state governments repairing federal roads is about the cost.
Right.
What happened under the Buhari administration was that the Buhari administration has to give a directive that governors should leave federal roads alone. Because by the time they bring the cost and they want to get their money back, the federal authorities will look at it and see that, this thing has been inflated.
Right.
So what is important is that every arm of government should be responsible to its own responsibilities. And very quickly, I want to talk about Muhammad Yunus, the founder of the Grameen Bank, who got the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006. The man popularly known as a banker of the poor. The current Prime Minister of Bangladesh is hounding him. He says, no, he's not a banker of the poor. That is a man that has been squeezing the poor and all of that. There's been a petition by quite a number of world leaders who are saying, leave Muhammad Yunus alone, but nobody seems to be listening. And I think it's unfortunate that a man that became a hero for poverty alleviation, for loans to poor and vulnerable people, is now being hounded by his own country. Could it be politics? Because after all, he once tried to establish a political party before he changes his mind. And this is the thing about bankers. Moving from banking into politics. It comes with its own baggage.
Lessons to be learned,
Thank
Doctor.
you, Rotus.
Thank you so much.
Rotus.
Thank you.